July 24, 2024, Edinburgh Airport. A 35-year-old man from Durham walks through the arrivals hall carrying a large black suitcase and a plastic bag containing 4 Mexican sombreros. He's just flown from Mexico City via Paris Charles de Gaulle. He heads toward the green Nothing to Declare channel, the corridor for passengers with nothing to hide. Border Force officers stop him. When asked about his luggage, Christopher Purvis holds up the sombreros. "Just souvenirs," he explains. "Holiday memories from Mexico. The kind of thing any tourist might bring home." The officers open his suitcase anyway. Inside, beneath layers of clothing, they find 8 vacuum-sealed packages. Each package is coated in yellow liquid resembling mustard, a crude attempt to mask the contents from detection. When officers cut through the plastic, white powder spills out. Purvis has a traveling companion. His suitcase contains 7 more packages. 15 packages total, over 45 kilograms. Street value, up to £5.64 million. Before officers finish reading him his rights, Purvis speaks. "It's all mine. My mate had nothing to do with it. I put it in his case." In 8 months, he'll stand before Lord Somers at Edinburgh High Court. The sombreros will become evidence in one of Scotland's largest single-courier seizures. How does a first-time offender from County Durham end up carrying millions in contraband through a Scottish airport? And what debt was worth risking a decade of freedom? Christopher Purvis, age 35, Durham, England. The man who walks through Edinburgh Airport on that July afternoon has no criminal record, no prior convictions, no history that would flag him in law enforcement databases. He's what prosecutors will later call a first-time offender, someone whose life, until this moment, left no trace in the justice system. What brings a man with no criminal past to carry 45 kilograms of contraband across international borders? Court documents reveal fragments of motivation. Purvis carried debt, obligations to people who don't accept missed payments. The specific figure surfaces in media reporting. £5,000 owed, with £20,000 promised for successful delivery. The mathematics of desperation. Risk everything to clear what you owe and pocket enough to change your circumstances. The court also notes that Purvis was a user of the substance he carried. Whether his debt originated from personal consumption or other circumstances doesn't appear in public records. What appears is simpler. He needed money. Someone offered a solution, and he accepted terms that would cost him a decade of freedom. Durham sits in northeast England, a cathedral city with a famous university, surrounded by former mining communities where economic opportunity arrived unevenly after industrial decline. The region produces workers, students, and occasionally people whose options narrow until illegal work seems like the only work available. Purvis fits a profile that law enforcement recognizes: the recruited courier, the mule who carries cargo for organizations that prefer to risk expendable personnel rather than valuable operatives. These couriers aren't kingpins or cartel members. They're people with debts, with habits, with circumstances that make them vulnerable to offers that seem too good or too necessary to refuse. Someone identified Purvis as suitable. Someone explained what he'd need to do. Someone provided tickets, instructions, luggage containing packages he wasn't supposed to inspect too closely. That someone remains unnamed in court documents, but the network exists. The Crown Office confirms investigators are pursuing a network of supply that extends beyond the man caught holding souvenirs in Edinburgh. June 30, 2024. Departure. Purvis leaves for Mexico. The trip will last over 3 weeks, long enough to seem like genuine tourism, long enough to establish a plausible story about holiday adventures. Mexico City serves as the collection point. Somewhere in the sprawling capital of 22 million people, Purvis receives the cargo he'll carry back. The handoff mechanics don't appear in court records. Who gave him the suitcases? Where the exchange occurred? What instructions accompanied the packages? These details remain with Purvis and whoever coordinated the operation. What's clear, by the time Purvis boards his return flights, he's carrying 15 vacuum-sealed packages distributed between 2 large black suitcases. His own case holds 8. His traveling companions hold 7. The companion's identity never surfaces in public records. Prosecutors refer to him only as another man, someone facing the same charges, awaiting trial scheduled for November. Whether he's a fellow recruit, a handler, or someone genuinely uninvolved, remains for that trial to determine. The route home passes through Paris. Charles de Gaulle Airport serves as connection point, a brief layover between Mexico and Edinburgh. The choice of CDG over direct London routes might reflect scheduling, pricing, or calculated assessment that Scottish borders receive less scrutiny than Heathrow. The sombreros enter the picture somewhere along this journey. 4 wide-brimmed hats stuffed into a plastic bag, the universal symbol of Mexican tourism. Every returning traveler brings souvenirs. The hats provide cover, a prop for the performance of innocent holiday maker. The packaging inside the suitcases reveals more sophisticated concealment. Vacuum sealing compresses the powder. A second layer of plastic provides additional protection. Then the outer coating, yellow liquid resembling mustard, smeared across each package. The mustard serves a purpose. As Lord Somers will later note, the substance was, presumably to put off any sniffer dogs. The pungent smell of mustard might mask other scents, might confuse canine units trained to detect specific chemical signatures. Whether this technique works consistently is debatable. Whether it worked on July 24th is demonstrably false. Edinburgh Airport, July 24, 2024. The flight from Paris touches down mid-afternoon. Edinburgh handles over 14 million passengers annually. Business travelers, tourists, students returning from exchanges. Purvis and his companion join the flow toward arrivals, 2 more faces among hundreds disembarking that day. They collect luggage from the carousel, 2 large black suitcases, 1 plastic bag containing 4 sombreros. The props are ready. The story is rehearsed. Now comes the test. 2 channels present themselves at customs. Red for declarations, green for nothing to declare. Purvis chooses green, the faster route, the path that suggests innocence. Most travelers make the same choice. Most travelers have nothing to hide. Border Force officers work the green channel precisely because it attracts people hoping to avoid inspection. Random checks occur constantly. Profiling identifies high-risk travelers. Intuition, developed over years of watching nervous passengers, flags those who don't quite fit. Something flags Purvis and his companion. The specific trigger never appears in public records, whether route analysis, behavioral cue, or random selection. What matters? Officers approach. Questions begin. Where have you been? Mexico. How long? 3.5 weeks. What are you bringing back? Purvis opens the plastic bag. 4 sombreros emerge. Holiday souvenirs. Mexico was lovely. Just tourists returning home. Officers request to examine the suitcases. The large black case opens. Inside, vacuum-sealed packages that don't match holiday packing. Yellow coating on each package. Liquid resembling mustard, presumably applied to mask scent from detection dogs. Officers cut into 1 package. White powder spills out. Field testing confirms what the appearance suggests. Purvis is no longer a tourist. He's a suspect in serious importation. Officers begin the formal caution. Before they finish, Purvis speaks. "It's all mine. My mate had nothing to do with it. I put it in his case." The words attempt protection, shielding his companion from the 7 packages in his luggage. Whether this reflects truth, loyalty, or instructions from organizers remains unclear. What's clear? Purvis has confessed sole responsibility for 15 packages worth millions. The statement will appear in court documents, will be quoted by Lord Somers at sentencing, will define everything that follows. Spoken in seconds, it determines a decade. What the packages contained. Officers catalog the seizure with precision that will support prosecution. Quantity: 15 packages total, 8 from Purvis's suitcase, 7 from his companions. Each weighs approximately 3 kilograms. Total: over 45 kilograms. Packaging: 3 layers of concealment. Vacuum-sealed inner bags compress contents and contain odor. Secondary plastic wrapping provides backup containment. Outer coating of yellow liquid, mustard-like substance designed to defeat canine detection. Lord Somers will later note this was, presumably, to put off any sniffer dogs. Purity. Laboratory testing reveals average purity of 52%. The percentage matters. Higher purity indicates material closer to source, less diluted by intermediaries. 52% suggests product that retains significant concentration, valuable to distributors who can cut it further for street sales. Value. Maximum street value calculated at £5,640,000. The figure assumes complete retail distribution, every gram reaching end users at typical prices. Wholesale value would be lower. But courts use street value to represent potential harm. What would have flowed through British communities if the importation succeeded? Scale. 45 kilograms isn't personal use. It isn't small distribution. It's wholesale importation, intended to supply networks across Britain. The quantity pushes sentencing toward upper guidelines, serious trafficking that courts punish severely, regardless of personal circumstances. Border Force secures the evidence. The Organised Crime Partnership, NCA, and Police Scotland working jointly assumes investigative responsibility. Every package receives unique identification. Every transfer generates documentation. The chain of custody must survive legal challenge. Purvis remains in custody from the moment of arrest. The court will later note he's been detained since July 24, 2024. The suitcases that were supposed to pass through Green Channel unnoticed have become exhibits in a prosecution file. The sombreros that were supposed to sell a story of innocent tourism have become symbols of failed deception. The case file begins its journey toward Edinburgh High Court. Organised Crime Partnership. The seizure at Edinburgh Airport represents one node in a larger network. The Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service makes this explicit in post-sentencing statements. Investigators continue pursuing a network of supply connected to this importation. The investigation extends beyond Purvis. His traveling companion faces charges. The same offenses, the same courtroom, trial scheduled for November. Whether others face investigation remains undisclosed. The network that recruited Purvis, that provided the cargo in Mexico, that arranged the logistics of international transport, these structures presumably involved more than two men with suitcases. The evidence chain must establish not just possession, but intent. Purvis will plead guilty, eliminating the need for trial. But the case against others requires demonstrating their knowing participation in conspiracy. Phone records, financial transactions, communications between participants. The investigative tools available to NCA and Police Scotland can reconstruct relationships that defendants prefer to deny. Whether such evidence exists against the companion, against others not yet named, will emerge through subsequent proceedings. What prosecutors establish about Purvis: he knowingly transported controlled substances across international borders. His own statements confirm this. His guilty plea confirms this. The only questions concern sentence, how severely the court will punish what he's admitted doing. Edinburgh High Court. Parliament House, Parliament Square. The building has served Scottish justice for centuries. Stone walls that have witnessed trials ranging from petty theft to the most serious offenses. Purvis enters these halls to answer for decisions made in Mexican hotels and British airports. March 4, 2025. Purvis appears before Lord Somers. He enters guilty pleas to both charges. First charge: being concerned in the supply of a controlled substance. Second charge: being concerned in the fraudulent evasion of the prohibition on importing controlled substances. The pleas come at the earliest opportunity. Legal terminology indicating cooperation that courts reward with reduced sentences. By admitting guilt immediately, Purvis avoids the expense and uncertainty of trial. He also positions himself for the maximum discount available under Scottish sentencing guidelines. His defense presents mitigation. First-time offender. No previous criminal history. Evidence of remorse. Personal circumstances that contributed to poor decision-making. The substance use that created vulnerability to recruitment. The debts that made illegal work seem like the only solution. None of these factors excuse what he did. All of them influence how severely punishment falls. April 16, 2025. Lord Somers delivers sentencing. The judgment addresses the gravity of the offense. Over 45 kilograms of controlled substance. Street value approaching £6 million. Sophisticated concealment, including packaging designed to defeat detection methods. international trafficking route connecting South American production to British markets. The headline sentence, 15 years imprisonment. But Scottish sentencing guidelines mandate reduction for early guilty pleas. The standard discount? 1/3 off the headline figure. 15 years becomes 10 years. Lord Somers specifies that the sentence runs from July 24, 2024, the date of arrest. Time already served counts toward the total. Purvis will be eligible for release consideration after serving the required portion, likely around 2029 or 2030, depending on parole decisions. The unnamed second man. He walked through Edinburgh Airport alongside Purvis. His suitcase contained 7 packages of the same substance, more than 20 kilograms, millions in potential street value. Purvis's statement at arrest claimed sole responsibility. "I put it in his case." The assertion attempts to exonerate someone who carried contraband through international borders. Whether investigators and prosecutors accept this version remains to be tested. The companion faces identical charges. His trial date, November 10th. The proceedings will determine whether Purvis told the truth, whether the companion genuinely didn't know what his luggage contained, or whether both men participated knowingly in the conspiracy. The companion's identity never appears in public records. Media refers to him as another man, traveling companion, descriptors that preserve anonymity pending trial. If convicted, his name will eventually surface. If acquitted, he may remain unnamed, someone caught in circumstances he claims not to have understood. The November trial will present evidence, hear arguments, and ask a jury to determine facts that Purvis's guilty plea left unresolved. Did the companion know? Did he participate willingly? Or was he, as Purvis claimed, an innocent carrying luggage he believed contained only holiday souvenirs? What 10 years means. Christopher Purvis entered Edinburgh Airport on July 24, 2024. He'll remain in custody until approximately 2034, assuming standard parole consideration. He's 35 years old. He'll be 45 when he's potentially released. A decade of life exchanged for what was supposed to be a quick solution to immediate problems. The £5,000 debt he owed? Presumably still exists, compounding with whatever consequences accompany imprisonment. The £20,000 he expected to receive? Never materialized. The holiday sombreros? Evidence in a prosecution file, symbols of a cover story that fooled no one. First-time offender status provided some mitigation. So did early guilty plea. Without these factors, the sentence would have been longer, 15 years headline, potentially more if he'd contested charges and forced trial.